Hey rockers, welcome back to another lesson of Rock on the Guitar with Carl. This lesson we're going to work on what's called power chords. So this will be good for the heavy rock guitar players that are out there, but they can be used in any style of music at all. Basically what a power chord is a chord with the third degree omitted. As you, if you remember when we did G, C, and D chords, there was a root note, the third degree of the scale, and the fifth degree of the scale. Now the third degree of the scale is what constitutes it being minor or major. If you have a major third between the root note and the third degree of the scale, you have a major chord. If you have a minor third between those two intervals, it's a minor chord. Well, with the power chord, we're going to omit that. So it's just going to be a first and a fifth. So they're generic chords, really, and they really don't have minor or major tonality assigned to them, and they can be played anywhere on the neck at all. And there's sixth, fifth, and fourth string root note power chords. So, alright, so let's get started. We'll start on the fifth fret of the low E string again for A. Place your first finger there. Now your third finger is going to go on the A string, the fifth string, on the seventh fret for E. There's your fifth. Okay. Your fourth finger is going to go on the seventh fret of the D string for another A. So you have this kind of sound. Now you don't have to play that high octave there on the D string. You can just play the fifth for a lower tone if you like. The high octave, so it gives it a little bit more of a happier sound because it adds the octave in there. But you can do either one, doesn't matter. And you can also finger it with just your third finger. If you want to bar the fourth and the fifth strings, you can do that too. These are good for heavy rock music, you know. Okay, now the fifth string root note chords is exactly the same as the sixth string. Basically, you just place your fingers on the fifth, fourth, and third strings in the same way you did on the sixth, fifth, and fourth. And you can play anywhere on the neck. Now the power chords with the root on the fourth string is a little bit different than the other two. What you're going to do is you're going to take your first finger, place it on the fifth fret again, or any fret that you want. This is G in this case. Third finger will go on the seventh fret, 2 frets up from wherever you are, for a D. Now because the G string and the B string, the third and the second strings, are only a major third part instead of a fourth like the rest of the strings are, you can't place it on the same fret on the B string because you won't have the octave. You'll have a major seventh between the lowest and the highest note of the power chord. So you have to place your pinky on the next string up from where your the next fret up from where your third finger is. So in this case, it'll be the 8th fret. You have that kind of a sound. Okay, now there's a couple of power chords that have the same type of formation, you know, the root, fifth, and octave, but they're played a little differently because they're in different parts of the neck. And basically those are E, A, and D. The reason for that is because there's an open string in there. So if you want to play the low E power chord, you play E open, and then you can bar the fifth and the fourth strings with your first finger for a B, and then another E if you choose to have the high octave in there. Yeah. And then for the A, that's on the second fret. You can play A down here like we just did. Or you can do it here with the open A, E, and another A. sounds a little different because the strings, the tension of the strings is different than depending on when you play it in the neck, but it's the same chord, same notes. And then there's also D that's played in the second position. We have an open D. Take your first finger, fret the second fret of the G string, the A, and then you have your second finger on the third fret of the B string, which is D. These three power chords that I just did are basically the same as what we just did, except because you're playing with the open note, the open string, you have to form your fingers a little differently. There's one thing that's actually sort of a variation on a power chord. It's not really a power chord though. They're called octave chords. Basically, if you take the power chord, we'll use fifth string root power chords, and remove the fifth degree. So you're only fretting. Your first finger will be on the fifth fret for a D. The third finger will be on the third string, G string, for another D. And you want to kind of rest your first finger on the D, so it kind of mutes, doesn't ring out, and you have octave chords. Those sound really cool. When you play power chords and you play those over the power chords, it sounds great. Jimi Hendrix was famous for using those. Lots of people have used them since then. They're pretty cool. And that's your power chords. One more thing you can do. You can play open strings too when you play power chords instead of just playing. You can actually pedal the low note of the power chord. Or you can even leave it open and you can do something like this. Stuff like that. But you got to be careful of what key you're in, because I was basically in E minor at that point. I was using an A and B power chord with the pedaling of the open E. So that will work. If you are working in using different frets, that might not work. So you got to pay attention to the key that you're in. And it's basically power chords. So rock out, have fun, listen to a lot of Metallica. Basically any rock band has ever used they've all used them, and you'll get to know power chords really well. Take care. See you next time.